Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my fine friends. Welcome to another bonus episode in the 10th season of the Tom Petty Project podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Brown. This is the weekly podcast that digs into the entire Tom Petty catalogue, song by song, album by album, and includes conversations with musicians, fans, and people connected with Tom along the way. Today's episode is a fairly hastily organized chat that I had with Jeff Slate and Jake Thistle about the upcoming Wildflowers and Some of the Rest mini tour that they're embarking on, which kicks off at the Tom Petty weekend in Gainesville in just a few weeks. It was fun digging into the dynamic between the two of them. We recognize that Jake has been performing with Jeff for pretty much a third of his life, that they haven't yet nailed down exactly who is singing which songs, and that the name of their supporting band in Gainesville is the Gator City Allstars. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a fun chat about what to expect at the Tom Petty weekend from Jeff Slate and Jake Thistle.
Tom Petty. Tom Petty Project. Tom Petty. Hey, Tom Petty Project.
Well, let's jump straight in then. So, Wildflowers and Some of the Rest is this very exciting little thing that you guys have cooked up and put together, and you're going to be debuting that in Gainesville at the Tom Petty weekend. So give me a little bit of an overview of how this came together. Like, who came up with this idea? What was the impetus behind it?
Last year, I walked off the stage at the, whenever my band played. Well, my band played, and then Jake played with my band, and then we played together, and then we had people up to do. It was like a whole thing.
They
And
were sick of us, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, well, I don't
Three
know.
sets of us.
It seemed to go okay, but walked off the stage, and it felt really good. And I turned to one of the guys who puts it together and said, "Well, I guess we'll see you next year. It's the 30th anniversary of Wildflowers." And he, was like, got really excited right away. I guess I was half joking, but, I knew it was. We were up there. I think we played a while. Maybe we closed with You Wrecked Me. That's probably why I was thinking of it. And then, forgot about it. And then a couple of months ago, when they contacted us to see if we were, wanted to do it again. And, Jake and I have both done it many times. So to have us each do it individually is a bit of, it's not such a novelty. And so it seemed like a good idea to come up with something cool. And, it gives us a little more stage time and a focus to do something like this. And I don't think it's ever been done. I mean, I'm sure there's bands out there who played all of Wildflowers. I don't know about them, but certainly not at a festival like this that's, sort of under the auspices of the family and all those other things. So, it seemed like a good thing to do. It's the actual 30th anniversary, which is, kind of cool. And it's a great album. And, we haven't talked about it, but I don't think we're going to change the running order. It's like, it's
Right.
kind of perfect the way it is. And then people complain that we changed the running order. So, it's just easier to do it the way it is. And then we were just talking about this earlier, that we'll probably do, a few greatest hits, but try to pick a little bit further afield than we normally do, just to make it a little interesting for the finale.
Yeah. It's
So-
great because, it makes things easy on us too. Because my thing is always, all right, you have, 100 minutes or whatever they end up giving. And it's like, all right, I mean, you know more than anyone with all the episodes you do. It's hard to narrow down, the songs like that. And then for me, I always like to play the songs from left field anyway. I don't want to do the hits, but that doesn't mean that the hits aren't good. And I also don't want to play them,
Yeah.
So adding this structure into it it made it easy on us to say, all right, well, we have those 15 songs. So we can leave all the rest to the other bands,
It was great. We were able to tell the band like 4 months ago what we were going to play. Oh, just
Yeah.
learn Wildflowers. That's, it's like,
Right.
it's pretty straightforward. And we're like, okay, the whole thing. Yeah. So, and then it, from there, we, I normally do a show here in New York City, and we were also booked already to do a show upstate in New York. And Jake was, we had sort of tentatively discussed him either opening or playing with us or doing, because he did that last year and it worked out really well. And so then it was like, okay, well, we're learning Wildflowers. Why don't we do Wildflowers? And that'll make it unique for those crowds as well. And then, we realized we had been talking about playing other places, and LA was one of them. And so it was really easy. There was I asked for recommendations from musician friends. Where could we do it? There was a place, a very cool, hip LA spot, but that also, has a Petty connection because Petty Cash, Todd Morse's band, played the opening and has played there regularly. And, various affiliated people have dropped in there periodically. It's kind of an Americana spot in downtown LA. And the people were really nice. I mean, that's the easiest thing, is when the ownership are into the idea and really nice about it. So, that came together, and, we have feelers out for additional dates, but that's where it's at right now.
And I'm assuming that was a really easy sell for you, Jake, when Jeff sort of said, well, we should do Wildflowers.
For sure. I mean, that's one of my favorites. And I was thrilled, I started doing stuff at the Heartwood in 2018. And then I had a couple of years off because of the pandemic and the other thing that, we did out in LA. But really, so for the last, I'm not good at math, but 6 years, Tom Petty's birthday has been booked.
Yeah.
So when the Heartwood was a week earlier than it normally was, it was like kind of a no-brainer. It's like, I haven't had that date open. And I'm sure you haven't either, Jeff, and for as long as, we've known each other at least. So
yeah,
it just was kind of a no-brainer. We should do something we can't always do. So I'm really grateful it worked out.
Yeah, because we were doing a Petty birthday show pretty close or on his birthday, before 2016. It went 17. It went way back.
Yeah.
Certainly, I bet almost, as long as Jake and I have known each other, we've been playing together in October. So
Yes.
It's really easy. It was a really easy.
But I think there's going to be something a little bit different, though, this time with doing the whole album in Gainesville, because obviously Tom talked about, before he passed, that was an idea that the band might not tour again. They might not do the full tour again, but they might do something like a residency with Wildflowers. And so for the fans, for us, those of us who kind of long for that, this is fantastic. This is the next best thing, right? We're getting two people who are super connected with Tom. You guys have been down to Gainesville all the time. You're known entities. People know that you're respectful of the music, but you're not going to try and do this, exact facsimile. So it's this sort of perfect blend, the perfect storm of the date being right. You guys have both been available. Like, it's this thing that you were talking, Jeff, about, maybe people getting sick of you being down at Gainesville. I don't think that's the case. I think if you weren't there, people are like, whoa, we're Jeff and Jake,
Well, but I think from the point of view of the people who put it together, the people who come to see us are probably going to be there anyway. So whether we're there or not, that crowd is going to buy tickets anyway. They may be disappointed and they may, complain about it, but they wouldn't know that until they don't book us. So that's on them. I have a long history with the Wildflowers project, because originally when Tom was still alive and before I think this is a story I can tell, that before the 40th anniversary tour was announced and he was going to be the Music Cares Man of the Year, there was talk about doing Wildflowers then. And I had been invited to interview him out at home in Malibu. This is like summer of 16, I guess.
Okay.
And, I was going to be out there anyway. I was going to be up in Northern California, but, I was happy to take a day off and go to LA. And then it became, we're not going to do, and it was, it took a lot of, back and forth, and it was going to be a big print piece for a major magazine. It was a big deal, but it was all still in the very beginning stages,
Right.
And so obviously it was like a year ahead of when this stuff was going to happen. And then I got a phone call, at some point in August that it was not. They were going to do the Men of the Year thing. Did I want to come to the Music Cares thing, cover that? And then, there was going to be the 40th anniversary tour. And unfortunately, print magazines are weird. Having Tom and Rick Rubin and Mike and whoever else I was able to get was going to be great. But to do something that was, him being Music Cares Man of the Year, that's really just a news story. It's not sort of a special feature about the making of the album. They had all this amazing, which we've now all seen, all this amazing story, but also these amazing photographs that were going to be part of the piece. And so I was, as a fan, knowing this before people knew. I mean, he sort of dropped Easter eggs periodically. But this was even before that Rolling Stone interview you're talking about, that this was an idea, I was disappointed, right?
Right.
Forget the fact that, I was disappointed I wasn't going to get to interview Tom. I was disappointed that it sounded like an amazing idea. The project sounded cool, as we all found out when the box set finally did come out, and the film and all this other stuff. But just as a fan, from the outside, I was like, oh my God, I want to see the Heartbreakers play Wildflowers from beginning to end.
Of course, yeah.
In a small venue, night after night for, however long, like they did with the film, or they did at the Fonda and the Beacon and so forth. And so I'm not saying, I you're sort of putting us in rarefied company when you're saying it's the next best thing. I would never say that. It's like sort of comparing yourself to Hendrix and the Beatles or something. It's like,
well, I know you wouldn't say it, Jeff, which is why I did, right? So because
yeah, and I appreciate that, but it's, we will do the songs justice. Obviously, Jake and I care immensely about this music and about Tom and his legacy. We know a lot of the people connected to him and his world. We would never do anything that would be disrespectful. We're not a tribute act by any stretch of the imagination. You've seen us. We do our own spin on these things. I don't want them to be note for note. It's rock and roll. It shouldn't be note for note. There are bands who do that. We are not that. and those bands, by the way, we were just talking about it. They like pack theaters. Yeah. So, and then I have a guy who plays with us, he doubles in one of those bands, and they do amazing business. So more power to them.
Yeah.
But you will not see Jake and I in costume, and we will not be.
Right.
So no, we're gonna play the album to the best of our abilities and put a lot of heart and soul into it. And I think that's what, great rock and roll, and that's what Tom Petty was about.
Well, I think that's where one of the times that we'd talked, Jake, I'd put out that you'd played, right? I mean, you played like, I think 6 or 7 songs. We did that streaming live, and I'd kind of titled that when I compiled those songs into a different video. I called them interpretations, because that's what I always think about the way that you approach it, and you, Jeff, as well. It's more about, as a musician, learning by rote is okay. Well, that shows that you've got technical chops, that you can learn the exact notes, but there's no personality in that then, right? And I think that is the important thing, that your personality needs to come through that, because you're up there on the stage selling. It's not Tom. So I always think that I don't want to see a note for note for note facsimile. I want to see musicians playing the songs. And I'm assuming then that's the approach we're going to get. So we're not going to get exactly, well, you don't have Ringo, right? So you're not going to get the exact shuffle on To Find a Friend. So I'm sure your drummer is.
I didn't say that.
Go ahead. I can say, the album exists, so it's like that's there for how that's supposed to sound. And especially, not only does it exists as one of the most acclaimed and, quote unquote, best albums, right, of all time, at least in my opinion. So that's just something I really want to chase after and just say, yep, we're going to sound exactly like that, So I'm really excited to interpret the songs and, do it, because and when Jeff is singing, I won't be Mike Campbell, or anything. That'd be really cool if I was, I'm still working on it, but the hair doesn't come in fast enough.
You need the dreads.
That's right.
Oh yeah, they might come.
No, I think, look,
we have a month.
Part of it is too, I can't wait. Part of it is too that, we have both, we're original music artists. That's what we do. We're not doing this on the weekends as a passion project with our buddies. This is what we do all the time. You know, if it could be a Tuesday or a Sunday or a Friday, Saturday, we're out, probably one or both of us is out there playing. And it's a mixture of songs we love and that people want to hear and our own original material. You know, Jake's going out on the road. I'm going out with the Wildflowers. You know, we're doing these things. I'm not playing Bob Dylan covers if I'm playing with Jacob Dylan. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So anybody who bought tickets expecting that. So, but by the same token, being an original artist and having played I Won't Back Down or Handle with Care, I don't know, 500 times. Jake, how many times, you know, how many times have you played
That's
these
the first song I ever learned.
Right. So certainly over the last 10 years, more than 100, many more than 100, you know? And so you stop, you don't, I don't even remember until it comes on the radio or Sirius or whatever, what some of those songs actually sound like. They've become songs that are part of our repertoire that we just play. I mean, we don't even really talk about how we're going to do it or what we're going to do it beforehand because the blueprint's there. We're just going to do our take on it. So I think that's, and I think people, I think they appreciate that. There are always people who want to hear it note for note or want you to put on a top hat, you know, whatever it is that they want you to do. I'm gonna get everybody, all the tribute artists mad at me today. But you know, I think that's not what we do. But the majority of the people who come appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, they would rather see us, like you said, do our version because the blueprint's there. The song is there. These are great songs that will live, you know, long beyond our lifetime on this earth. And so there'll be people playing them, having never seen Tom Petty live and having, you know, only been able to hear the record or watch the videos or whatever it is. And you know, so I think that's a big part of it as well.
But do you think that that's part of what the weekend organizers get right? Because to me, when I look at the past 2-3 years and you look at the types of artists they've brought in, they are bringing in a really diverse range of people who, you know, they simply wouldn't be able to play Don't Come Around Here No More in the same, you know, format, or you can't really do that with the setup of the weekend. It's not about, that's why they've always deliberately avoided tribute bands, right? Because they don't want it to be that. They also want to showcase artists' original work. So I want to ask you about that. So you're playing this on the Friday. Wildflowers is going to be on the Friday of the weekend. Are you also going to be doing some sort of a solo set on the Saturday, or is there any solo stuff coming up? Because, you know, the songs that I want to see from the last two albums that you guys have put out live, I'm hoping that I'll get to see some of those.
Go ahead, Jake. Why don't you can tell.
I really want to see Jake Thistle perform his brilliant original track from that I heard on Transparent Clinch, that Heart of the Matter, which I was blown away with how good that song is. I don't know if you saw that, Jeff, online. I mistakenly thought that Jake had written Heart of the Matter. For some reason, that song got eluded me my entire life. Great song. And very Jake Thistle, if I may say.
Well, I'll take it. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love doing those acoustic sets, and they're so much fun. And I think everybody at the Heartwood does a great job injecting originality into this weekend, especially because there are going to be a lot of different versions of a lot of different songs and a lot of different versions of a lot of the same songs. And I think that is one of the ways that keeps people coming back, because there is, even for, you know, the biggest Tom Petty fans, there's a cap on how many American Girls you want to hear at a headline, you know. However, when they're bringing these original acts that can really make it their own, you know, we heard, I'm trying to remember what the song was, and I think it was an incredible reggae version last year. Was it Don't Come Around Here No More? I don't remember. I think it was Don't Come Around Here No More.
They did do that. Yeah, they did.
It was, you know, it's incredible, and I think, you know, I'm not going to speak for Tom. I never knew him, but as an original artist myself, I think that's really cool to see these songs kind of live and breathe in, you know, other mindsets, other cultures, other generations, and I think that's really part of the magic of the weekend.
Definitely
Yeah, I
get
mean,
it.
one of the things when they when I first started talking to the Artwood people about performing there, I made it clear, because a lot of times these weekends built around a particular artist or whatever will contact me, and I'm like, we don't do like the note for note thing. We don't
Yeah.
do. We're just a rock and roll band that happened to play Tom Petty songs or whoever it is, and a bunch of other stuff as well. And so and they were really excited that it was original music. There were other artists that are sort of connected to Tom involved in what we played, and so forth. So I think you're right. They're very open-minded and forward-thinking about, I think you can't build a Tom Petty weekend if all you're doing is having tribute act after tribute act.
Yeah.
That's not a living, breathing thing. There are places to go for that, and there are bands who do that incredibly well. But and maybe they may have one of those, or that may be something they dip their toe into periodically. But in answer to your question, just to cycle back, my understanding is we're both doing the indoor acoustic thing that we've done in the past in the small room that will be up on the Jumbotron in between sets on Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
And I think that's all we're committed to now. When you get there, they are always like, well, do you want to do, and I'm always happy to do it. Jake's always happy to do it. I say no more than but
just give me time. I'll get there.
yeah. Well, that's part of it as well. I don't like to rush, but and then I know we have time carved out on Saturday afternoon to be at a booth and meet people and do selfies and sign stuff and sell merch and all the things that you do. Because one of the most gratifying things, we did a table together last year on, I think it was Saturday afternoon. That was really fun. People were really excited to just come up and talk about, these are all people like you and us who love Tom.
Yeah.
So it's like going to a Shriners convention or, whatever it is that, everybody's into the same 4-H, whatever it is, that everybody's into the same thing. And it's all different levels. There's all different stories attached to that. There's all different favorite songs. There's a woman who's yelled at me at my merch table 2 years in a row because we always play Mary Jane's Last Dance. And I hate that song. Stop playing that song. I'm like, there's literally 1,500 people here who want to hear that song.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm really sorry, but you're probably going to hear it a couple more times this weekend. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, but that's, and even that is fun, because it's, I remember I saw her walking up this year and I was like, okay, here it comes.
But that's what music is, though, right? Because without that social contract between the artist and the audience, there's no, it's not no point, but it's not the same, right? That's why we go and see live music, is for that experience of connection. And so when we get this community that's built around, a single point, there's enough common ground there that if you bring in, who's the other headliner? I can't remember now. We were talking about it, Jake.
Warren Treaty.
Warren Treaty. You bring in some of these people, or you bring in Shine, or you bring in these different acts. There's enough there that even if you don't like, if it's not one or two isn't necessarily your bag, you're still going to hear something you enjoy because we're all music lovers. I think that's another cool thing about the weekend. Never having been there, of course.
And I think too, everybody they choose is in the ballpark of Tom Petty, and even if it's like a reggae band that is playing Tom Petty, there's a connection. There's a like-mindedness, and I think that's just as important as the note for note thing, or that the spirit of the idea of why these people are doing music is the same as art.
Jet, you were talking about, the idea that you don't always love doing, Rain Down a Dream or Freefall because you do want to get in some of those deeper cuts. And when you're, as much as, like, hey, who doesn't want to do Freefall? I shouldn't say that, but going into the deeper cuts gives you that opportunity with all the rest. Because, when the box set came out and we hear things like Harry Green and Somewhere Under Heaven and Something Could Happen, all these amazing, it's like, how the hell does this sit on the shelf for so long when most artists would give their right arm for that? So when you go starting digging into all the rest set, have you got in your mind yet? Do you know which songs you want to pull out and do? Like, have you guys actually talked about that, or do you have a firm sense of which ones you'd like to tackle?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be the ones that, resonate more and sort of like, jump up from the bunch. So, I'm excited to sort of look into that as we finalize the set. But, something I've always loved about going down there is the fans, the big fans that know every song, but even the ones that don't are really supportive of those songs regardless. I did one of the inside shows. I think I did 2 or 3 of them. And so by the third one, it was Sunday. My flight was leaving in a couple hours, and I had done, hours of Tom Petty. I said, I'm only going to do like the most B of B-sides I can ever do. And I had like 25 minutes, and I opened with It'll All Work Out. And then I did, what did I do? Blue Sunday, Square One. And you know what I mean? Like all just like stuff that I thought was really good that no one else, it was now we're going on 5 days of the Tom Petty Music Festival. I said, I want to do the ones that probably literally have never been played here. And I don't know if that was right or not, but the people that knew those songs really appreciated that because no one's expecting to hear them. But the people who didn't were like, oh my God, thank you so much. You gave me the stuff to listen to on the flight home or whatever. So I've always been really grateful for the fans and the type of people that come out to these because they're open-minded, not only about Tom's music, but about our music and all the other original acts too. So that always means a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I also think that some of the rest allows us to do kind of anything. It's not necessarily going to be Harry Green or.
But you can do Girl on LSD. You can do, you can.
Yeah, but although we have a limited amount of time. While we were talking about this earlier, that Wildflowers is going to take up. If we had say an hour and 20, Wildflowers is going to take up an hour of that.
Yeah.
So there's not much. If we do a couple of originals and a couple of hits,
and that's before my 16-minute solo, and it's good to be
exactly
right.
Mike Campbell. We're going to do Oh Well. We're going to do Oh Well, and that'll be the end of it. No,
right.
So some of the rest is just a euphemism for other songs. But yeah. I mean, what I did do when I put together, I made a playlist for the musicians who were playing to learn the songs, and I didn't pick all the songs that were the original recorded version of the songs for them to learn.
Yeah.
Some were the live versions where the arrangements had developed a little bit, and some of them were the the alternate versions, that had, they weren't necessarily different in any serious way, but they definitely had, maybe they were a little edgier. They were a little more seat of the pants because they were an earlier version.
Yeah.
A little rougher around the edges. And I always think that's good to give a musician. He's like, oh, I know Wildflowers. And you give him the version with Bringo playing drums. And it's the same song and the structure is completely the same, but it's just got a little bit different vibe to it. And it makes us, the band, and I hope the people listening, like, oh, that's Wildflowers, but it's got a little bit different vibe to it. And I think that's what we're trying to capture. Because, we're not going to be able to we're not the Heartbreakers. We're not going to be able to rehearse for a month before we do these shows. It's going to be a little bit seat of the pants. And I think to throw a little bit of a wrench, a little bit of a left turn into that for us and for the musicians is a good thing once it gets presented to the audience.
But it's great for the fans too, because us super nerds, once you go into like the alternate take of Higher Ground or something, you're going to get meerkats. It's like, wait a minute, I know what they're doing there. That's kind of cool. Right? And people
That's actually
that.
One of them, because I prefer that version to the. I'm never. Look, I'm a Birds fan. We all know that. This is no secret. But I never loved that Wildflowers version. The album for it's great.
I'm with you.
I'm just saying, on an album of all A+, it was like an A- for me. And I know I've had this conversation with people who love that song to bits. But so in the playlist, I hope I did, but I can fix it if I didn't. And I was just thinking about this the other day. We're gonna, try to approach it with that. It has a real snap, that other version.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, is that one of the ones with Stan on drums? It might be one of the ones. It's like, There's a couple that have stand
No,
on
I think that one is
drums.
still Ferroni. He's just playing different. He's
He's
playing a bit
playing
harder,
different.
right?
Yeah.
And it's mixed differently.
And I think, I was going to put one of the Stan versions in there, but it's a little too fast. He like, the story is in there about why that happened and so forth. And they ended up redoing it, I think, for that very reason. But the way he plays it, if I could tell everybody, let's do it this way, but 10 beats per minute less, but whatever. That Stan version, God, it's one of the big ones too. Is it maybe Good to Be King, or no? It's not Good to Be King. Anyway, it's so there's so much in that. The box is right here. There's so much in there to pick from, and so many great versions of those songs. I think most people, like you said, are not going to notice these things.
Yeah.
But the 5 or 10% who do are really going to appreciate it, and we appreciate it. It gives us a little bit. Anything that I feel puts us on our toes on stage with songs that we know that are sort of part of our DNA is a good thing.
And I think that's a wealth of experience speaking there too, right? Because most people, if they're coming down and they're playing Wildflowers, they might be a little bit like, I don't really want to take too many chances because I don't want to screw it up. But I did have a question about, and we sort of talked about, you haven't really worked through exactly how you're going to break up the songs, who's going to sing lead on some of those. But Don't Fade on Me was the one. As soon as I found out about this, I'm like, I wonder how they're going to do Don't Fade on Me, because I'm wondering if it's just going to be you two, on stools, kind of sit, because I know that's the thing about Don't Fade on Me. They were sat like real close, right? Tom and Mike would just kind of sit eyeball to eyeball, and they were just playing across so they could get the exact take right. That's going to be fascinating to see how you guys handle that.
I think Jake nominated me to sing that. Didn't you nominate me to sing that, or was that one you picked?
Go ahead. No,
Right,
I was like, that's a good idea. Let's plan like we were doing that all along.
Yeah. I mean, look, the reality, the way this normally works is Jake is usually on acoustic and I'm usually on electric, and, or two acoustics. Yeah. And I mean, we certainly did this at the El Rey, where it was pretty stripped down, Learning to Fly and some of those other things. I don't think it's not rock. See, this is what we do. You're really overthinking it, and you're kind of throwing, like, oh my God, maybe I should think about this a little more. But I think this is, those are songs that we both know so well.
Yeah.
We've done this so many times where we've never done the song before, and it's Jake's song and he goes off, and when it comes into the chorus or the harmonies or whatever, I just do it because I know what they are.
Yeah. And
he looks over and he's like, oh yeah, that's the part that, nobody ever does that you're supposed to do. Oh, that's pretty good. Or vice versa. So, I'm not really concerned about that, but I guess we should narrow it. I think Jake sent me a couple of weeks ago a list of his I thought you would pick that. I really did, but I'll maybe it was when you didn't care. But he sort of gave me a list of 6 or 8 songs that he really wanted to do.
Yeah. And
it was great because they weren't really the 6 or 8 I would really want to do. So he always does. You don't know how it feels. And I've sung a bajillion times. I'm happy for it's like you want to do the ones that you feel a real connection to, because you can do them more justice, I think, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're in the fortunate position too, where you both have the right voice for any of the songs on that album, right? There isn't really anything where it's out of range, or there's something where it doesn't really match up with the way that either of you phrases or intonates, whatever. They all kind of fit because your vocals are petty adjacent. They're close enough, right? So that kind of makes that probably a little bit easier too, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to,
no, go ahead.
I think it's easy to let go of stuff if needed. You know what I mean? Because I know the songs will be done justice. So if I sit there and go, all right, my favorite song of all time is Crawling Back to You, so I want to do that. And he goes, and whenever we flip a coin and it ends up, it's not like, oh no, like now this song's gonna sound terrible. It's not like that at all. So it's encouraging because it's just, we'll both be up there. So, I always do like this harmony edition.
I think that's the one that Stan plays on, actually, that I was thinking of. And that was one of the ones that was in your list. And I was like, oh, I want to do that, but I don't care either.
Yeah.
There's also, for sure, we could also flip it each show, and it wouldn't
Right.
really matter that if one night he did Wildflowers and the next night I did Wildflowers, or we divvied it up like we do Tweeter and the Monkey Man, or whatever, however we do it, it would still be fine, because these are songs that we know so intimately. I don't think either of us feels like, oh, he's going to completely blow that. I step back. I got
Yeah. If we hated ourselves, we could just switch every song each time we play, all 4 days.
right.
If we're just like, you know what, we're not busy enough.
Could do like Elvis Costello, have the big wheel on the stage, just spin at stage. You're up.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a
That's
great
right.
gimmick.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It would be exhausting.
but some of that too comes from the fact that you guys have played together so often, right? I mean, you do know each other's rhythms. You do know you can play with each other because you're friends and you're long time now musical collaborators. So I think that trust element that gets built up in a band is the same thing in the Heartbreakers, right? They just trusted each other. They knew if one person goes off and starts doing something, the other person's just going to react to it, and they're in safe hands.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
right.
that's true, because I think all this stuff that you're asking us is not the stuff I think about. And I understand where you are. There's a logistical aspect to this that I completely understand. But by the same token, we've done this enough that I totally trust him as a performer, and I think vice versa. And once you have that, you can play anything.
Yeah.
If in the middle, the power went out and it was 2 acoustic guitars, we could figure something out to do and people would be fine.
Yeah.
And we would be fine, right?
Yeah.
There wouldn't be nerves. We wouldn't be weird. It would just sort of happen. And I think that, so to not really be thinking through, I'm going to do this first and you're going to do that first. I'll take the high harmony, and we'll get to all that, it has to be done.
Yeah.
But I think there's an organic process to that rather than sitting down. It's like, look, when I was a kid and I was in my first bands, I would sit in math class, geometry class or whatever, algebra, and I would like write out the band members, and he's going to do this and he's going to do this, and there's, whatever. And then you'd get there and you realize none of that is actually how it goes down. People work to their strengths, not to their weaknesses. And you may or may not know what those strengths are until, you sort of worked it out. We both know what our strengths are, right?
Yeah.
If I break a string, he can cover. If I, it's like those things are all just kind of rote at this point. Oh God, I hope they are.
Yeah.
I hope you're nodding over there.
Yeah, way to
Jake.
jinx it, Jeff, But yeah, I think we're coming up on about 6 years of playing with each other, which is, it's a good portion of my life. It's
Yeah. It's about a quarter, right? I mean, it's just over a quarter.
yeah,
of life.
it's almost a quarter of my life. A third.
So,
Well, no,
how old
I'm
does
not
that
good
make
at
you feel,
math.
Jeff? I mean, how old does that make you feel, mate?
I try not to focus.
Cool. So, I mean, you bringing the band down there. Obviously, your band, I'm assuming, is the band Jeff, or is that?
No, actually,
Okay.
we had our, one of the considerations was to have both of us, and to, we would not be able to bring my band, right?
Okay.
So, fortunately, both of us have been down there enough and built some relationships down there, and because people, I think, know and like us and respect us enough in the musical community, it was maybe half a dozen text messages and we had a band. It was
Wow.
like I made kind of an I told them to call them the Gator City Allstars, because I think the guys we have playing with us are by far not just the best players, but they've got a great attitude, and they're going to be the best that play together.
Yeah.
Right. It's knowing their strengths, and knowing what they bring in a band
Yep.
situation. And that was really important to me. And also, it's a particular album with a particular sound. So while there are people out there, in Gainesville who could certainly play these songs, or could certainly play Tom's music and are maybe better or whatever at the same caliber, I really went for the people who I thought would be perfect for this particular group of songs, because we knew then what we were doing. It was pretty obvious right away. So,
Right.
I don't want anybody to feel bad that they were left out or, whatever. It wasn't like that. It was a very specific mandate.
Okay, well, so we kick off in Gainesville. So what are the other dates on this little mini tour that you have lined up so far?
Well, so far
Yeah.
there's Gainesville. Go ahead, Jake. You do the pitch.
Sure. I was gonna say we start in Gainesville, and then from there the next week we're in L.A. That's on the 18th, right, of October.
Yes.
Tickets are
19th.
on
19th, 18th, 19th, 18th, 18th.
18th. I thought it was the 19th too, but I'll mumble that. That way we don't throw that date out.
Let's not go on the 19th.
It's on the 18th.
At the
And
Desert
the
5
tickets are
spot.
on both of our websites.
Yep.
So, and the websites have it right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's actually for like there is in Gainesville Company Weekend, we set up a VIP thing for LA, because we have a lot of people from Company Nation and who we've known a long time, and there's a VIP option where people can come in early, stay late, get the selfies, they'll get a little goodie bag and be able to spend a little time with us in the band, and I think that's and be able to get first dibs on the seats, because it is a general admission show, and people are particular, and I get that. They want to be up front, or they want to be they don't want to be up front. That's cool too.
It's a beautiful spot too. I'm really excited to check it out.
Yeah.
I know there's one on the East Coast too. I've never met.
It looks quite intimate. It looks like a really cool place. Like, it looks like a neat place just to be. Never mind even listen to great music, right?
Yeah, it's I think it's 250 capacity. It's a pretty it's a pretty small-ish space, but it's also right in downtown LA, so that's tricky for people to get to and park and all those other things. So
Of course.
so that's on the Friday, and then the following week we're in Marlboro, New York, upstate from here, up near Woodstock, at the Falcon, live at the Falcon, which is a very famous upstate New York place, run by a guy who now his son runs it. He passed away during COVID. It's just an institution kind of place,
Right.
and that would be great. That's on Thursday the 24th, and then the 25th we're here in Manhattan at Bill Country Live on West 26th Street, and we'll see. We're sort of, since it became knowledge, I've gotten a few messages, and we're trying to figure out if we can add.
Yeah.
The one I'd love to add is Nashville. But it's we have to be able to get there without losing money. It's like
of course.
that's sort of the hardest part of it. And there's other considerations. I mean, we obviously want it to be not just a good experience for us and be able to play in Nashville, but for it to be, for it to be good.
Yeah.
For it to be great.
Right.
You know me well enough. I think, man, I don't blow smoke up people's backsides unnecessarily. I think that for the fans, getting to see Wildflowers end to end with two performers and a band who they know and they trust, and like I said, you built up that trust with the fan base, with the way that you approach the music and the way that you approach the fan base, that it's just a dream come true for us, right? I mean, like I said, and I think that once you get this out on the road, I really do hope that it does grow, because I think the appetite for hearing this album has to be there. It's just making sure that the word gets out. And of course, I'll do the very small things that I can do on my little tiny little corner of the Petty Nation. But I'm just so psyched that I get to see you guys live down in Gainesville. This is and both down there, because I was thinking, like, when they booked, I'm like, I really hope Jake and Jeff are both going to be there, because I was worried that, because I know that Paul Zollo's not going to be there this year. I was kind of hoping to meet him and shake his hand as well. But the fact that you're both going to be there is like, there we go. This perfect timing for me. So,
well, you're going to get Stan Lynch. So that's
and Stan as well. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I haven't heard the Speaker Wars album yet, so I don't know how much I love it. I don't know. I know a couple of the songs, but they sound great. But just seeing an OG, right? Just seeing the big guy behind the kit's going to be phenomenal. So
yeah, I appreciate that, and I have to say, all the messages and all everything on social media, and just the DMs and so forth that I've gotten, I'm sure Jake has too. People are really excited about this, and I was excited to do it. And I thought it felt like a really natural thing. It's right in both our wheelhouses stylistically, and the anniversary made it obvious. But I think you're right. People always wanted to see it played live, didn't get to see it play live.
Yeah,
we'll get to see it play live. And it's obviously not Tom of the Heartbreakers, but I think they, I don't want to compare us to him or them or whatever, but I think people have an affection for us that maybe, makes it a thing. So look, I have no problem if this takes on a bigger life and we end up playing Wildflowers, or some album, for however long we end up playing it. I'd play Echo too.
I think it's great. Yeah.
That's next year. There you go.
Yeah. That's the midnight show. The midnight show is
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So
well,
you said,
when we start divvying up those songs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
well,
Apparently
room at the top's yours, Jake.
Mike's song. I'll be singing Mike's song.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It is.
It turns out Mike Campbell can write a pretty good song. As it turns out, who knew?
What a surprise!
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Just
hey,
ask Heart of the Matter. I co-wrote it with him.
That's right.
well, hey, thanks so much for jumping on, guys. Like I said, as soon as I saw the social media starting to trickle out about this, I was getting real excited. And I kind of had my fingers crossed that this is what it might be, but I didn't want to get my hopes up. So when I contacted Jeff and you sort of confirmed, it was like, yes, I picked the right time to go into Gainesville. It's exactly the right year to go. So there's going to be lots of people I know who listen to the podcast who are going to be down there as well. So it'll be great to sort of meet some of those people. It'll be great to kind of watch this performance together, and I just can't wait. So tickets on the website for the other shows as well, you said? Okay.
Well, Tom Petty Weekend has the Tom Petty Weekend tickets.
Yeah.
JeffSlateHQ.com or JakeThistleMusic.com have tickets for any of the shows, I believe.
Yes.
And it's I mean, come more than once. Travel, follow us around the country.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and my website has the I'm sure yours does too, the link to the Gainesville tickets, so you can kind of get it all in one place. My website is JakeThistle.com.
Oh, how did I get that wrong?
I should get that URL too, just to double dip,
I have a bunch of them that just in case, because why not? Yeah.
Just
anyway, talking business here, you can edit that out.
Yeah.
That's what, hey, people like behind the curtain, right? They like seeing the amps unplugged, so that's good. Okay, well, thanks a lot, boys. This has been a blast, and I'll see you guys down in Gainesville.
Absolutely. Can't
Appreciate
wait. Thank you so much.
Really, really fun.